Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. With over 1,000 NCAA commitments, the EHL is the proven path to college. Turn it up and learn more about the college placement leader at the Division II and III levels.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, "We take care of our own," as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 86 of the E-Show. And on this week's episode, we feature the final Original Six franchise of the offseason, the New York Apple Corps. Mike LaZazzera is gearing up for his third season at the helm in Brewster, eager to get off to a good start in September. With hopes of a normal season on the horizon, LaZazzera is feeling as confident as ever for the upcoming year. As always, we wrap up the episode with another all-time lineup, showcasing a pair of goaltenders that truly excelled in the NCAA ranks. I'm joined now by Mike LaZazzera, the head coach and general manager of the New York Apple Corps. How's it going, Mike?
Pretty good, Neil. How are you?
I'm doing well, and welcome back onto the E-Show. Had you on around this time last year. And as we kind of get set here for yourself, this is going to be your third year in the league. You're going back on your first year. It was your very first season. Last year, you were heading into a pandemic season. So your third year, does it feel, in quotes, normal?
Yeah, very much so. It does feel a little bit back to normal. I think society feels a little bit back to normal. You know, I don't want to jump the gun, but it definitely, things are a little bit more normal everywhere at the rink, just anywhere you go now. So last year, as trying of the year it was, but it was pretty incredible of the league to get as many games in as we did. And if I may here, that had a lot to do with you.
Thank you.
I can't tell you how many endless meetings that you had with us coaches and rescheduling and scheduling and changing games, and you deserve a lot of credit. And that was incredible just to get as many games as we did in last year, 40 games, but hopefully we'll be somewhat back to normal this year.
And I know we're so much closer to the new season than the last season, but there's so much to look back on from last season for you that I have to ask some questions. Like the first one that stands out to me, how do you as a coach talk to a team when you can't play a home game in your actual home building until Wednesday, February 3rd? Like, how do you have that conversation?
That was probably the most unique coaching situation I've ever been in. Never have I ever gone a season where you don't play a home game until February. But, the rules were the rules in New York, and we abide by them. And, everybody was kind of in a similar boat, but we just, for our purposes, couldn't have any games in our home building.
Yep.
So it was definitely challenging, I tell you what, I give a lot of credit to my support staff, my assistant coaches, Rob Belger and Mac Rogan, Steve Santini, the owner, a lot of logistical work behind the scenes, but most of all the players. Players were troopers, really. They just, I can't tell you how many times you walk in the locker room on a daily basis and within a 3-hour span, two things have changed. I remember one time we were actually practicing in the morning last year, and Steve never bothers us, never interferes with anything. He came out to the rink. I was like, uh-oh, what's going on? And he said, "Can you play a game tonight?" I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay, yeah, we can do that. Sure. So, and that's a tribute to the players. I mean, to be that flexible and to just want to play, and it didn't matter where they were playing. It didn't matter who they were playing. And I give all the credit to the players as well as the guys that worked with me, my assistant coaches, Steve, everybody, just all the logistics that people don't see, the behind the scenes stuff. And that's what really makes things work.
And having to play 3, maybe even 4 games in a week, how does that change your coaching mentality? Because I'm sure you've never had to do that before.
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely changes things. It changes your perspective, your take on the week. What I like to do personally is have theme days throughout the week where we have an offensive day and defensive day of practice. Offensive days will consist of odd man drills where we're doing 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, small area games where there's odd numbers, 4-on-3s, 4-on-2s. And defensive days, there's even numbers, obviously, as you could figure out, 1-on-1s, 2-on-2s, 3-on-3s. So you like to do that, throughout the course of a week, knowing you're just going to play in the weekend. But then all of a sudden you're faced with 4 games in a row. You don't have that luxury of having themes and themed days and offensively one day, defense another. So you just kind of get what you need to work on. You look at, your opponent and you go on past games that you've played, look at film and say, okay, this is what we need to work on. These are the good drills we're going to do in practice. Of course, we always try to get the special teams in every practice. So it's definitely a challenge. But again, the players, they just, whatever I threw up there on the practice sheet, put it on the glass at the start of practice. Players would come over, look at it. Okay, let's go. And they were just incredible last year. And, all the credit goes to them.
And one thing that we said a lot on this podcast last year, obviously you played more games the year before than this past year. You won 13 your first year, 12 this past year in less games played. But a common statement that was made was that your team was, in the opinions of the podcast, a lot better than your record show. Did you feel the same way?
I did. I really did, and that was kind of amongst the coaching staff. And, when we'd have meetings after practice or throughout the week, and we'd say, we're a way better team than wherever we were at the point in that season. Say we feel like we're a way better team than an 8-game win, season so far, or 10 games or whatever the mark was when we were saying those statements. Absolutely, we thought that, and it was just no excuses. It's we got to perform, we got to execute. We don't get the job done, we don't finish games, and that's on me, and the players got to execute, and that's on them. But I feel like we definitely were a better team than our record. We were in a lot of close games. Even the playoffs kind of indicated that, 2 1-goal games, overtimes, against a very good Pro Tech team. So yeah, I personally thought that, the players, I had a sense of that too, we're a way better team than however many wins we had. Mm-hmm. And, it was frustrating, but that's on me. That's on the head coach, and we got to perform, we got to execute, and we got to get the job done this year.
You'll never make excuses as a coach, but did you feel like when the season ended and you had a chance to kind of breathe, did you feel like because of how many games had to be played in such a small window that ultimately impacted your performance in the postseason?
No, I don't. I mean, I feel like the guys, postseason's postseason. If you don't get up for postseason as a player, then, maybe you're in the wrong sport. I just feel like it's easy to get up for the playoffs. It's easy to motivate yourself for the playoffs. Intrinsically, you just have that, that revitalized energy. You're in the playoffs and you want to go, and it doesn't matter if you just play 5-5 or 4-6 or whatever. You just want to go and you want to play. And, I get it. Teams have the choice of starting a series when they want to start it, but nobody wants to sit around either. The guys, if you tell them you want to practice 2 days or do you want to play tomorrow, they're going to say, I want to play tomorrow. Yeah. And so that's no excuse. We just ran into a better team. They were better than us. It was great games though. I will say that, overtime games, 1-goal games each game. But they were a better team in that series for sure.
I asked that because around this time last year when I had you on, the question was somewhat similar, but it was, your team had started to get hot late in that 1920 season. I asked you if you felt that another week or so would have resulted in the postseason berth for your team. You fast forward to this past year, and you kind of got hot in the same exact manner. Does it feel like almost like now you kind of have a chip on your shoulder that, hey, things are normal. We're going to start better out of the gates, and we're not going to feel like we're in that same grind mode, if you will, at the very final stretch?
100%. Great question. 100%. I remember you asking me that question last season. And, it's funny. I talked to Coach Grogan quite a bit, my goalie coach here with Applecore. And great. First of all, it's unbelievable to have a full-time goalie coach with us. He does an incredible job with the video, with the goalies and everything. But he was saying the same thing. He says, we got to get out to a fast start. We just had a conversation 2 days ago. He says, we got to get out to a fast start. He says, we play well in the beginning, but we lose the 1-2 goal games. And, those are ones that come back to you at the end of the season. And, as far as the win totals and where you are as far as the seed in the playoffs, home ice, not home ice. But that's a great question, because we literally just talked about it 2 days ago. And he said, we absolutely need to come out of the gate fast. We need good goaltending. We need to score. We need to button up our defensive zone. But that's something that, you're talking about it here on this podcast. We talked about it, a couple of days ago. So you're right on. Are you sitting in on our meetings, or what's going on there?
Not yet, but with Coach Grogan, I think that you were the only team that puts GoPros behind each net, which I know sounds so minute, but I got to actually pull a few highlights from them this past year. How much do the goalies kind of embrace being able to have a camera angle like that and when they review their play?
Absolutely unbelievable. Like, I can't even put into words the goalies that when I'm recruiting goalies in the off season, I that's the first thing I talk about is Coach Grogan. Why I spend 20 minutes talking about Matt Grogan, because the video work that he does, the GoPros, he puts together a tape it's old school, right? That's what we call it.
Yeah.
But he puts together a video for the goalies after every game of all their touches.
Okay.
And it's incredible. He edits it out. The guy does it, after the game. He goes home, edits out every touch that the goalie makes, a dump in, a face off, a play around the net, a shot on goal. And it's about a 10-minute long of 10 to 15 second clips. That's a lot of work.
Yep.
But the goalies, it's invaluable. Like, the goalies, how much they appreciate it and how much they learn from those things. Just their angles, what they're doing and setting up on face-offs before the puck's dropped, going back and playing the puck and looking at one-timers, shoulder checks and pushes from side to side. Everything is on this video every single time they touch the puck. It's incredible that, and you're right, the GoPro, he leaves the locker room early at the end of before we go out, the period starts. And, I say what I have to say at the 8-minute mark, and then he runs out, takes the GoPro off one glass, sets it up down the other end.
Yep.
He's just incredible. The goalies appreciate it. I appreciate it. And we're so lucky to have him.
And we use one of the highlights is part of the opening commercial on Hockey TV. So for those that haven't seen how clear it is, there's a save made by Jackson Bernard that was shot with the GoPro. It's right at the beginning of every Hockey TV broadcast. But it wasn't just your goalies this past year. And I know I'm going to get to this later on the podcast when I build the all-time Applecore lineup with Jeff. But one thing that we talked about a lot in this podcast was, in our opinions, how underrated some of your forwards were. Did you feel the same way when you talked about Michael Leath or Colin Kalanin, Michael Carducci, you name it? Did you feel like they were underrated in the league?
I did. I really did. I felt like, Michael Leath was 1 point shy of being the leading scorer in the league. Just kind of a forgotten guy, and, it's Applecore. And you know what? It is what it is, and reality is reality, and it's the winning teams that get most of the glory, I guess, right, and most of the attention. So, and we didn't have a winning record, so that contributed to it. But I do feel, you bring up a valid point. I do feel that these guys were underrated, undervalued, I think, in the league. As a whole, like we're playing Applecore, and guys forget, we had Michael Leath, second leading goal scorer in the league. Colin Kalanin, I think he was in the top 10 or 15 in the entire league. You would probably know better than that with the statistics. And Carducci, and we had some really good forwards, and happy to say that they're all, moving on to play Division III college hockey, which, is obviously that's our number one goal here. Of course, we want to win, but we want to get these guys, off to the next level. But they were great players, great kids off the ice, on the ice. And I just felt like maybe they didn't get the respect they deserved, but they, kind of using your phrase, which you used a couple minutes ago, they had a little chip on their shoulder. So they go into games with a little chip on their shoulder, and, and that kind of motivated them a little bit as well.
And I'll tell you what, the 87's coaching staff did not think they were underrated, or maybe they were the ones that pointed it out to me, because they always said to me, when those guys are on the ice, you have to look out for them. But when you talk about them, the Levas, the Carducci's, Ruskowski, they're all multiple year guys for you, 2-year guys that were with you your first season and your second year. Of course, they're going to be hard to replace, but to see them make that next step to the college level, what's the feeling that you get as a coach?
Yeah, that's the best feeling, actually. That's above and beyond all the wins you can have and whatever. Just going with them the whole way, the whole season. The ups and the downs of a season, the good and the bad, and then finally at the end of the season getting their due, if you will, and having coaches reach out, and multiple coaches. Leva had 8, 10, 12 at a time, guys interested in him. He comes to mind for an example, but it's just so gratifying seeing these kids, and they appreciate it. Like, they still call me in the summer, thanks coach, and or what can I do? I got this program from the school I'm going to, this off-season workout program. Can you help me with something? And so it's great that they still stay in touch, and they're appreciative, and that just makes, that's why you coach, really. I mean, Of course, everybody wants to win, and everybody wants to win a championship, but it's those things that a lot of people don't see, and the hard work that the guys put in practice, and then it pays off, and you're just like, you're ecstatic. I don't know who's more happy, or me or the guys that are going to the school. It really is a gratifying experience.
And we got 8 commits and counting for your team. But there's also, you've announced a core of players that are coming back. Colby Waters, Drayton Todorov, John Myers, Jimmy Metler. To be able to have a core like that returning, does it make it almost easier for you as a coach?
I don't know if I use the word easy, Neil, with coaching.
Okay.
I'm just messing with you, but I don't know. I mean, it's definitely, for the continuity purposes. Yeah, I would say that's a better word. I like the continuity of the guys coming. I think we have, I don't have my roster in front of me, but 11 or 12 guys coming back. And that's huge, from year to year, having that many players come back in a season. They know the systems, they know what you like to do. They know your power play templates. They know your penalty kill philosophy. They know the forechecks. They know all the systems, and that helps. And then they also know what to expect of you from practice and the compete level you want in practice. So the new guys coming in, having 10, 11 guys coming back, 12 guys coming back, they're looking to those guys in practice like, okay, we're going to follow these guys. We're going to follow the league. We're going to, get maybe too deep in line for this new drill we don't understand, and watch the veterans do it. And so it's all the little things that definitely help. But it's great to have that core coming back, I tell you, because they were an integral part. All those guys you mentioned were an integral part of the team last season, and they're going to be a bigger part of the team this season. So very excited to have all those guys back.
So then let's put you on the spot for the last question, because I know Steve Santini is responsible for the scheduling. Obviously, he owns the team and runs the rink there. But when you look at the schedule, you guys play on opening day, which is Friday, September 17th. That opening weekend, you played the Ducks twice. Was it players? Was it you? Did anyone point out to Steve, hey, Steve, would love to open up against the Ducks and maybe get some revenge?
Well, I don't want to give away any secrets, Neil. but Steve's obviously a hockey guy. As anybody in the hockey world knows, Steve's son plays for the St. Louis Blues. I always tell this to kids whenever I'm recruiting. I talk to kids when I'm recruiting. I talk about Steve, believe it or not. I talk about our owner, because he gets it. Like, he gets the junior, the whole model of the junior idea and ideal. And he had a son that played junior hockey in college and now professional hockey in the NHL. So Steve gets it. And you know what? I think maybe there was some, some thought process there that let's open up against Pro-Tech since they were the team that knocked us out of the playoffs. So I'm not gonna give you 100% answer on that, but it's a possibility.
Well, I'll be tuned in on that Friday night at 6:45. All right.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thanks for coming on.
All right, Neil, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks again to Mike LaZazzera for coming on the podcast this week as he prepares for another season with the Apple Corps. And with that, let's bring in Jeff Mills now. And Jeff, our final original 6 team of the off season.
Wow, crazy! Can't believe opening day is right around the corner, Neil.
Right?
It feels like we've been doing these off-season things forever, and then it feels like we've been doing it for 5 minutes.
And we did a few of the. I think we did a few of the original 6 like early on, and then kind of spaced out a little bit as the summer progressed.
Yeah.
So this is the last of that group that includes the Rangers, the Little Flyers, the Rough Riders, the Warriors, and the Express. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
But
choo-choo!
To compare with those other franchises, the 2 that I think have the most in common are the Apple Corps and the Warriors, because when you look at really the Rough Riders and Express and Rangers, they had history a little bit prior to the EHL, but not like the Warriors and Apple Corps did. Because when you go to the Warriors and Apple Corps elite prospects pages, like we had the same issue a few weeks ago, you see all these names and you're like,
from like 2000.
Did any of these guys play on the EHL Apple Corps teams?
Right. They were on the first editions of this league before 2013 when we actually started the Eastern Hockey League.
Yes. Like
So
if you go to the Apple Corps Elite Prospects all-time stats page, you have to go all the way down to the 13th guy to find someone from the EHL because there's just that much history before. And you can even see, look at all these years, 2002 to 2004.
It's like we were in high school and these guys were ripping junior stats.
I mean, the EHL 10 years prior to when it became a thing was not even a thought process at that time, right? But
right, exactly.
There is plenty of talent, though, to be found throughout what is 8 years of history for the Apple Corps in the EHL. So where do we want to start? We've kind of bounced around starting all summer. Do we want to start forward, D, goalie?
I was just going to ask you the same question there, my friend. Should we
I have
symmetry forward?
I have 2 goalies.
Oh, you do? All right. We can start from the bottom up then if you want.
I have 2 goalies, and the first goalie, we've talked about his college team a lot this summer, I should say. And that's Blake Wojtala. And Blake played for the Salve Regina team that went to the national championship game and lost to St. Norbert. Remember we talked about
Regina on this offseason podcast. I feel like we've been hammering Salve on this podcast.
Well, I mean, this was the 2017-18 year, right?
Yep.
So in 28 games for Salve that year, he had a 1.99 goals against and a 9.37 save percentage.
Wow. Yeah, that is extremely good for college.
Like, out of this world.
That shows you can make the jump. You can play juniors, and he was arguably a better college player than he was a juniors player.
I mean, first team all-conference in the CCC, both the 17-18 and 18-19 years. So those are his junior and senior year. He was the goalie of the year both years. He was phenomenal in college. I mean, even honestly, his Apple Corps numbers were not, terrible in quotes, I guess you could say. He had a 9.11 his first year, 9.22 his second year. But
no, and like we say too, Neil, with the goalies, not to cut you off, you have to take their stats with a grain of salt too. I mean, it is what the Apple Corps have struggled traditionally as a franchise. So I mean, the defense in front of Wojtala hasn't been, the premier style defense that you want in front of you for a goaltender, right? So obviously your numbers are going to be a little inflated, and it just shows when you can go into college and then you can put up numbers like that, goaltender of the year twice. You got some skill. You're a good goaltender, especially for a team like that, like Salve. That's traditionally one of the best D3 teams.
I'm curious to see if he ends up somewhere this year. He's part of that kind of class of players that graduated and then COVID hit, but started a minor career. Like he was playing
ECHL.
He was playing in Worcester right before Worcester became an EHL team, right?
Yep.
So, well, I'll be curious to see if he's the type of kid that gets a chance to come back into an ECHL team this year. Another player that kind of falls in that same category of what Jeff just mentioned. Look at how many guys have played goalie for the Apple Corps in their junior hockey history.
A lot of one and dones, huh? Wow.
It's 1 year, yeah. But it's just amazing, like how many years of history that program has, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Like, and there's been a lot. Like, I'm gonna go. There's actually a few choices here, but I'm gonna go Tim Sestak because
he was when you first came in.
Yes, he kind of follows with the same, mentality, if you will, that you were just talking about. Where, look at his time with the Apple Corps, over a 915 save percentage, and then went on to Wesleyan. I mean, this year is just insane. 21 games during the 18-19 season at Wesleyan. He had a 158 goals against average and a 950 save percentage.
Oh, saving 95% of the pucks should go your way. You're an A+ student, A+ goaltender if you're stopping 95% of your pucks.
So overall, in 4 years of NCAA Division III play, a 190 and a 940.
I'll take that any day.
Whoa.
Yeah,
he was not even goalie of the year, Jeff. Not even goalie of the year. He was the NESCAC player of the year in the 2018-19 season.
Right? Like, I'll take the MVP. Thank you very much.
But I think that just goes to show you that, like, while you're playing juniors, whether you're the team that's in first place or the team that's in last place, there's always going to be a team in both, right? You're never that you cannot not have a team in last place. That's just how sports work. But you're still developing and turning yourself into the player that you want to be. And when you get there, you can perform.
Right. And I mean, there's someone that we could say we've kept the honorable mention category for every episode. Jackson Bernard, right? Goaltender for them for last year. We brought him up many times on the podcast last year. And I believe somebody took him, did they not, in fantasy for a little bit?
Kyle did.
Because they went through some injuries. They lost Roskowski for a while. They lost, I think it was Carducci, Leva. They pretty much lost everybody on their forwards. And then Mettler was really good defensively, but they didn't have a ton of guys defensively. So Bernard saw a lot of pucks, but came up with a lot of games where he was making 51 saves, 52 saves. And even if you let 4 pucks in, I mean, these college coaches and these scouts, Neil, right? Like you just said, they see something. They see something. Even if you're getting peppered, the team's not great in front of you. If you work your, one off, then they can see that. And these guys like Wajtala and Sestak showed enough to get into the college ranks from their efforts at the junior level with the Apple Corps.
Yeah. I mean, a name that I haven't mentioned yet, Nick Tarian, right?
Mm-hmm.
He went on to Utica. How good has Utica been year in and year out in the UCAC?
Yeah.
Right?
Great D3 school. Yep.
I should say he was technically EJHL. Okay.
09-10. Easy does it. Yep.
Chris Stangerone is the starting goalie at UMass Dartmouth now.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a good little time. You just mentioned Jackson Bernard. Doug Connor. How many years ago was this? 2016-17 in the EHL. He was a part of the first all-star team that we put together to play the club all-star team. That was like trying out to go play in an event in Europe. And he's kind of gone to college, come back a couple times. Right. But I mean, maybe we'll leave that honorable mention spot open for a second, because maybe it's Bernard. I remember Gargiulo. He had a few games. I know the numbers, as we mentioned, don't totally show it with a 4.36 and 8.84, but there were a few games where he would just turn in 50 saves, wipe his hands, and be like, all right, got the win. so
and another team, like you said earlier too, Neil, that's like that we've said that they haven't had a lot of great years, but they've definitely picked off a lot of good teams over the years.
Yes.
Like the Warriors.
Sure. Yes.
You just mentioned they're very much like the Warriors franchise, where they are usually an underdog, but some years they've had a couple of great seasons, and then there's been some years where even though they haven't been great, they've still picked off some of the cream of the crop of the league.
Yeah. Recognize this name? Alex Henson.
From the Philadelphia Junior Little Flyers.
He began that year with the Apple Corps, right?
I interviewed him at the Frozen Finals. I remember.
Yes, you did. So let's shift up to forwards because we got 2D. We're good there. The first forward that I want to start with is a guy by the name of Zach White. We're talking original years of the EHL. He was on the 14-15 Apple Corps team, played for a team actually called the Brewster Bulldogs the year prior to that, which also plays in the same rink as the Apple Corps. That was their Met League team. Then he went on to play 4 years at Curry. He was the captain. I mean, look at this, 26 games his senior year, 39 points. That's pretty damn good at the college level. And kind of falls in that same category as Blake Wojtala, where COVID hit at a time where he had just started to play a little bit professionally. So we'll see where he ends up when we come, hopefully, I guess I should say out of COVID this year and back to knock on wood, normal times. Yep. But I knew we had to include Zach White on this. And he actually, funny moment with him. We've gone to Curry for a campus tour twice with our all-star team. But we weren't able to play them like we wanted to last year. And it just, whenever we went and we toured and Zach was there, obviously he was a leader on that team. He was like, when can we play your team? When can we play your team? And it's finally going to happen, knock on wood again, I should say, this year. I'm sure he'd love to come back and be a part of that game. But
absolutely.
You want to do Michael Leva? I think we have to do Michael Leva next.
I was going to say, there's a lot of guys in that last year's team that we both like a lot. So we can fill up this forward stat sheet real quick with all these names. But yeah, why don't we do Michael Leva? Because I was actually just looking at we'll go Michael Leva, and then we'll go to some of these other names that I've dug up from like the middle years of the EHL.
And the way last season played out with the unbalanced schedule, just trying to get everyone through, you have to almost... He had 58 points in 35 games, right? And Yasuda had 59 and 38. So
wasn't he one of the ones that had injuries too?
He had he missed a couple of games because of injuries. Yeah. And say he plays a full year, right? Probably leads the league in scoring. Didn't have the highest points per game average. That's a good trivia question for another episode. But just dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Right? And
fast as lightning.
I know Kyle loved him on his fantasy team. I mean, there were some games in the second half that were just
stuffing the stat sheet.
I mean, there was a 4 or 5 point game here. I mean, look at the last stretch here. In the last 7 games.
Was that 4 3-point efforts?
4 3-point efforts.
Holy crap.
58 points and what was, as I mentioned, 35 regular season games, 21 goals, 37 assists. Actually spent 2 years, I believe, right?
Yeah, he did. He was on the 1920 and 2021. Yep.
So 2 seasons with the Apple Corps. Look at the jump from year 1 to year 2, more than doubled his point production and heading off to UMass Dartmouth this fall. So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't have Leva on here.
You love seeing that too, don't you? When a guy jumps like that, doubles in points, also became the assistant captain. So he got to wear the A on his chest last year. And yeah, good things to come from Leva in college for sure. He's a great addition. How about another good name, Neil, if we want to jump around a little bit? Race Bennett. He was another multi-year player.
Yes, and his father.
Almost 100 points.
His father coaches at Union. You knew that,
Union.
Right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought I remember us talking about him before. So when I came across his name, I remember him from all the showcases. And then I thought Dad was Rick Bennett. That's right. Yep.
Rick Bennett is the coach at Union who won a national title.
He's been there a long time.
One of these years they won a national title. Whatever year the Frozen Four was in Philly, because I remember the Union had Gosh to spare, and he went and signed with the Flyers right after the Frozen Four ended.
The Ghost Man. That's right. Shane Gossesbear. Yeah. I think that was 15. That was right around wasn't that right before or right after Yale? It was a couple of years where Yale won, Union won. It was the
Yeah.
The off schools winning the national championships.
Yeah, the Yale one stings still, Jeff. Thank you.
Sorry. That's right. Go Bobcats.
Yeah, so Yale beat Quinnipiac. That really
Neil, big QU guy.
Yeah, that really sucked.
Mickey Ravin, wifey Ravin, also a QU lady.
But Race Bennett spent the 17-18 and 18-19 seasons with the Apple Corps. Look at
good player.
95.
How can you not be with Dad's Rick Bennett? I mean,
95 total games, 86 total points. I mean, 6'4", 220. You knew where he was when he was on the ice. And Dad's a big guy too.
Yeah.
So I that's where he got the size from. But he was fun in our league.
Yeah,
and,
he was.
He had a chance to play 9 games at Salem State back in 1920. Obviously, he wasn't able to play this past year, so I guess that totally makes him a junior this upcoming year. But a fun player when he was in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to another Michael.
I like
to go with the Michael Leva.
I might be the one. Oh, okay.
We're gonna go Michael Carducci,
yes.
who I honestly like. Between him and Leva, I think they were the most underrated players in the league. And when you say
I would agree with that. Yeah.
When you say a player is underrated, it makes it sound like he's not good. But I think underrated.
Noticed.
I think underrated. Yeah, exactly. I don't think they just don't get the recognition that they should. Right? Like I think they were 2 of the top, honestly, 10 forwards at least in the league. Like when you have a chance to watch them, like
they were good.
Every time were on the ice, they were a threat to score.
And I think we ended up talking about them a lot at Frozen Finals Week. I remember the core coming up and like when we had our sessions of all the different coaches and staff hanging out, we do our hockey chats and stuff. I remember us talking about Leva and Carducci a good amount.
Well, it's probably
they were noticed.
Probably the 87s telling us
Maddie and Adam
telling us how good those guys were.
I think it was a couple of long nights of Maddie and Adam having a couple of cold ones talking about the core.
The next name that I remember I wanted to mention badly was Kyle Warren. Mm-hmm. He played for the Apple Corps as it loads here. I got it. It seems like forever ago at this point, but 17, 18, and 18, 19. I remember this 18, 19 season. There's a goal that maybe they could post for us or they can go back and find. He scored the game winner against Wilkes-Barre, someone in a playoff game where it was almost like Bobby Orr, like went end to end and then had to got tripped up.
Heartstrings.
Yes, got tripped up while diving to trying to get it on the far post. And just a phenomenal goal. For some reason, I never will forget that playoff goal. It actually may have been this 2017-18 year. I think that the Apple Corps
playoff games.
I think the Apple Corps beat Wilkes-Barre that year, and then it was reversed the next year. But I remember Kyle Warren was like the guy, and there was a playoff overtime winner. I think it was against Wilkes-Barre, where it was just he was full extension in the air, getting it around the goaltender. And what's kind of funny is not funny. It's unfortunate for him. He was supposed to go to Wilkes, suffered an injury that kind of cut his playing career short, but now he's coaching.
He's silver lining.
We've kept in contact because he's now coaching, and he's kind of hey, if a spot opens up, I'd love to come coach in the league. It's
that's awesome.
Okay.
All right. And he's still young too. So isn't it weird too? Purdue on the Seahawks, same thing. When I see him next to Zanaboni on the bench, I'm like, dude, I remember calling your games. You're still young. You barely have any facial hair in your face.
I don't know who it was.
Billy Purdue. That's
There was an alum over the weekend that got married, and I was like, "How long have I been in this league, dude?" I was like, "How long have I been in the league for?"
Married? He's like, "Yeah, I have my first kid." You're like, "Oh wow, okay." Beat me to it, right?
Another forward that I had circled on my chart going into this. I'm not sure if you're gonna remember this name or not. This kid was a stud.
What year was this? Middle years? Your beginning years?
No, this is kind of middle.
Yes, I did have this kid circled. Yup.
This was 1920, and
this kid was a wagon.
Wagon. Underrated a little bit.
Very.
Danilo Moroz was electric when he was in our league. He had 56 points in 41 games. You and I always have trouble with these European teams. He's playing for Billy Boris Turska in
That
Ukraine,
sounds
but like
fake.
he's playing pro. Like I just remember like because that year he came in like shortly after we had finished the All-Star week against the college teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be like, dude, why couldn't you get here like 2 weeks earlier? Like,
could have used you, buddy.
Like this kid he was 6'2", not as hefty as you could say as Ray Bennett, but like 56 points in 41 games. Like he was damn good.
And I think I remember him too, because that was right when we started EHL Fantasy. Somebody picked, I think it was you that picked him.
Yeah, probably.
It was one of those like sneaky Neil picks where he tries to go around the show and take a player from each team each week and kick our asses. So I remember Burroughs being one of those guys. Yeah, great. That's a great selection. I had him on my list.
It's tough looking at this elite prospects list because there's so many non-EHL guys.
I got another name. We can bring it up for discussion. What about Toivo Kramer? Sandpapery kind of kid. Tough.
Yeah. I mean, I think
he's been on a couple of teams. Who did he just jump to last year? I think
the Chiefs.
That's right.
So maybe that's our honorable mention.
Or honorable mention. Okay. Let's say he was pretty sure he was a captain at one point.
The slot that we have no idea what to do with. We just figure it out on the fly every week.
Man, what a perfect chief he became, though, right? If there was someone you looked at that you just watched this game and you're like, yeah, he'll be a chief someday. That kid hits anything that moves. Toivo Kramer, tough kid. He's only 6'2", 196. He plays bigger than that.
Yeah. Well, I think let's hold that spot for right now.
All right.
Let's also mention there were 4 game winners in that season for Morose. Like he was that good. He
did a little bit of everything.
I got another name for you. He was part of our 17-18 All-Star team.
Oh.
Should I make a dad joke here?
Do it.
His name was Matthew Boring. And
boring.
His game was not boring.
Not boring. I knew you were gonna make a joke like that when I saw his name. I just knew it was coming, and there it was.
It's a good thing Vicky's not home. She would have told me to end the recording and start over.
I can hear you doing your own color comment as you. Matthew Boring carries it into the neutral zone in a very unboringly way. That's a new word I just made up.
He had 41 points in 51 games. He was fun in our league. He put on a show when he was on the ice too. As I mentioned, he was on that all-star team. Just that single year, the 17-18 season. But
Matthew, exciting. Throw him on the board, baby.
A name that you can never forget.
Nope, never.
But like, it's not
You'll
like
never be bored of Mr. Boring.
Like if I'm sure like growing up, like he got poked at a lot, but like it's not like,
dude, you're boring.
It's like, all right, yeah, I'm boring, whatever.
Come on,
like,
let's jack you up, buddy. Go ahead.
Still better than you at hockey. So
yeah, exactly. Let's skate from one end of the ice to the other. See who's boring after that.
So
drop the mitts.
The next 4 that I wanted to put in here, I think you may have mentioned this earlier. And that's Colin Kalanin.
Yes, I did mention him.
And I remember like when Kyle started picking him.
And we all were kind of like, who are you talking about? They were like, oh, this kid's good.
This kid's like really good. Like
Kyle's scouting report hit. We were like, whoa. All right.
Like there were like, look at this stretch. I'm highlighting a 7-game stretch, 3, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 points in 7 games. Like it's just, there were stretches where he just went off. 41 points in 35 total games. I'm not sure if they've announced him as returning yet, but I know he is eligible. So they would love to bring him back, I am sure.
But that's the kind of player that can really put the core on the map for this upcoming season if they could keep someone like him.
I would put him on the All-Star team right now. Should I call him up?
Call him up. Colin, hey, how are you?
You want to be on this
Associate Commissioner Neil Ravin here. How are you, sir? You
want to be on this year's All-Star team? You can come back right now. We're ripping through the forwards, Jeff.
Ripping through.
We got
Ripping
four.
Through.
We got 4 left, and
we want to go back to some of the beginning, middle.
Like look at this D that just showed up. I know we've already covered this, but like we can't put Matt Gilroy on the all-time Apple Core list. Like we want to, but he never played in the EHL. He played in the EJHL, right? Like I know he played at
then played in the NHL for a long time. I was like, Gilroy, wait, what?
If we put Matt Gilroy on and we're doing like all Apple Core, do you know which,
Rob Scuderi?
Yes. Do you know which EHL coach would be like, I have to be on that?
Ooh, Sorella?
Yes.
Mr. Solar Bear himself, or was he?
I bet you he gives us a hard time still for not putting him on this. I'm like, Chris, you never played in the EHL. Like you're in your 40s, you never played in the EHL.
Yeah. So Chris, we love you, but yeah, you didn't play in the EHL. Sorry, buddy.
Let's throw
Solar Bears.
Let's throw Mike Cacciato on this list. He was the leading scorer in the 16-17 season.
Yep, he was on my list. Good pick.
Look at those. You know what? They've always liked those jerseys. They kind of have
Red Wings.
They kind of have that Red Wings BU, just like simple and basic, but like powerful. Like
simple, basic, powerful.
But doesn't
the new Verizon commercial right there, baby.
Doesn't BU's just say like Boston on the front?
Yeah. Yep.
Or maybe it does say university, but it's like there's no logo. It's just like Boston University.
Yeah.
I mean, he's put together like an insane club career. Like, look at this: 60 points in 38 games. So let's throw Mike Cacciato up there next. As I mentioned, just spent one season with the Apple Core, 16-17, had 47 points in 52 games that year.
Another decent name. We'll again bring it up for discussion. Don't have to throw him around there. From that team, remember Go Yamura? I remember him being another like real fast, slippery type.
Was he on that
forward.
team?
He was. He was on the 16-17.
There he is. Where did he go afterwards?
Where did he go? He went to Rough Riders?
Nope. Boston Junior Rangers.
That's where I remember him more from the Rangers than I do. Was he on their EHLP championship team?
No, he was on the 18-19 team, and moved on to Wesleyan.
Good for him.
Should I tell the story?
Oh, story time.
I won't use a lot of names.
Okay.
He was chirping back and forth with a player one time across the rink.
In hockey, the guys don't do that.
And he said to this player,
X,
my family is so rich, I could buy you.
Oh,
and I was like,
that's like an all-time chirp right there.
And I was
you make fun of me? I'll buy you.
Like, I was like,
what? Excuse me.
That was awesome. Like,
I feel like that would shut up like 90% of the.
I wouldn't know what to say.
I don't think I would. I'd be like, thank you. I'm flattered. I guess.
I'm not for sale. But okay.
What are you offering? What's my ask price? Yeah. I'm looking for $200K. Can you meet that?
I remember when he said that, I could actually hear it because it was like in between periods where I had the headset off, and I was like,
you said where did he go? Wesley? Okay,
Wesley.
So he's a smart kid. So he's one of those kids that's like, I'm not gonna swear at you. I'm gonna mentally screw with you,
cut you down,
and I'm going to intelligently put you in your place. And that's what he did. I'll buy you. That's excellent. No F-bombs, just I'm gonna buy you. My family could buy you. That is one of my favorites of all time.
It was awesome.
That alone gets him not just his speed on the ice, that gets him on the all-time list. You're threatening to buy guys as a threat,
right?
Go you bear, I love it.
Let's put another Salem State kid on next. We mentioned Race Bennett earlier. Was teammates with Connor Woolley with the Apple Court, now with Salem State. Overall, I call Woolley, I should say.
Wasn't there a Woolley in the NHL? Was it Jason Woolley? Sabres? There's no relation.
Maybe it doesn't. It would show up right here on the EP page. But overall, played in 79 career games in the EHL, 57 points. Played a few more games his first year with Salem State than Race, had 14 and 24. So a player to, I would say, keep an eye on this year because gets a chance to play a few more games in college, maybe win some awards there in the MASCAC. 2017 to 2019, his time.
Knock on wood again, but that's going to be fun to see back, isn't it?
Thank God.
D2, D3, everybody ripping and roaring.
We've actually done a decent job bouncing around here too.
I think so.
I just
I was saying, we got any point streak guys yet?
I mean, this is
about Ricard Cusin.
You were here before I was. Do you recognize that name?
Ricard Cusin? I think I did. That's from a showcase in a long time
He was on
ago.
the 13-14 Apple Core team.
Wajtala was there at that time. I remember him.
Yep.
Ricard
led the team in points and in penalty minutes. 51 points and 135 penalty minutes.
Welcome to the penalty box, Mr. Cusin. Your steak is ready.
I should ask Mark Kumpel about this. He had 2 playoff games that year, scored 2 goals, and had 26 PIMs. So
let's go see Kumps' email. Just type in K and see KEU come right up. It's like, oh yeah, he was in my office quite a bit. Ricard, good guy.
So 13-14. You know what? That helps us kind of. I think we almost have one from every year at this point. So let's put him on here.
Yeah, 14, 15, 19, 21. Yeah, look at us.
And that gives us one more forward. And I know we've kind of covered last year's team, and we've used
you got Leva, Carducci.
We've used that underrated.
Oh, I got
term.
one too. Are you thinking about one from last season?
This could be pretty unreal if we're thinking the same exact thing here, Jeff.
Should we do a 1, 2, 3?
Well, it's loading on my screen.
All right. Well, 1, 2, 3. Riskowski.
It's the one that's loading.
Yes, dude. I can't see it. I swear to God, to all the people at home, I can't see anything. It's still loading.
It's literally it's like we're dating, Jeff.
It's like we're dating. I'll call Vicky when I'm done.
Oh my God. But Riskowski, speaking of injuries, just went through kind of a stretch where he just couldn't get back on the ice. And every time I talk with LaZazzera, it's like this kid is potentially like the best forward in the league. He can't get back out there right now. So he's heading to Western New England though. So hopefully he can kind of.
He put up buckets of points in short time last year. I had him on my fantasy team. I remember I took him because the core had 1 million games in the second half.
Yes.
When he played, he lit it up.
39 points in 27 games. He was dynamic. He just couldn't. He was dealt with those injuries, and like I said, heading off to Western New England this fall. So
hopefully put the injuries behind them.
Yeah, and then can tear up the CCC. So 2019 to 21 for him.
Beautiful.
First defenseman. Speaking of all-stars, Ryan Leath.
Yes, I remember him. Damn good player.
They didn't make the playoffs that year. As I type in Keith, not Leath.
Hey.
They didn't make the playoffs the year that he was with the Apple Corps and that All-Star, but he was the most sought after guy at the trade deadline.
Really?
Everyone wanted this kid. I mean, he was great.
18.
He was great. I mean, he was so steady. 88 career games, 42 points. Now is at SUNY Potsdam, a New York kid. He honestly, when we get to the all-time lineup for EHL, I know he wasn't one of those D that put up just buckets and buckets of points and, Ezekiel Moroz or whatever, as steady as they came. He was one of the best defensemen in the league.
Steady as she goes, baby. Might be on the all-timer. I do remember him, too. It's one of those names that jumps out. You remember.
Yeah. And we mentioned Curry a little bit earlier with Zach White, the forward that became the captain there.
Mm-hmm.
Another player who I guess we'll call him underrated on the back end was Logan Scarlotta.
Mm-hmm.
And he spent 2 years with the Apple Corps. Again,
a former assistant captain. Noticing that
he was just so rock solid, so rock solid. And he's at Curry now, and we'll get to see him this fall against us.
With Peter Roundy in the bunch.
That's 2D already, Jeff.
How about Mr. Jimmy Metler, James Metler from my fantasy squad last year? He was good.
And I think they already announced he's returning too.
Oh, James, you're coming back to Team Jeff for EHL Fantasy.
I mean, I pull up the page. It's literally Metler back with the core.
Hey, hey, love it. He's another good player. He's been there 2 seasons, I believe.
I think this is year number 2.
Is this going to be year 2, or is this? Or he's only played 1 year before. I thought this can't be year 3, right?
This is year 3. Well, if you count a couple of games in the 18-19 year, last year a full season. No, sorry.
18-19.
Hold on.
19-20.
2 games in the 18-19 year, 19-20 a full year, 20-21 a full year. So coming back for a third full year, it's almost like 3.1 that he's played, right? You can't call it a fourth year.
And actually, wait a minute. Was he one of those guys too that's like a Brent Burns type? Can he play forward and D? He's listed as D, but why did I think he was one of those guys that they kind of flexed up? Maybe it was because they had so many injuries last year. But look at those points he put up at the prep school. 45 points. Was he playing D there? 17 goals, 28 assists in 17 games. He put up 45 points at the Harvey school.
Maybe.
What? Hello?
Maybe.
Holy heck.
So, I mean, who has the first pick in fantasy this year?
Is it? Well, Lauren and Anthony did not play last year because I don't know if we go like worst to first. We do like a little NFL draft style.
Yeah, we probably have to give them first pick. So I don't know if
me and you go third and fourth.
We will not remind them of Metler because one of us wants to take Metler early on. That's
this episode.
Yes, that's 3D so far.
That was pretty quick.
Again, I can't look at it on this page because there's so many players in the history of the Apple Core, right?
How about Walrowitz? He was another one.
Yeah.
Thinking of
what year was that?
He was 1920.
Yes, moved on to
Nathan Walrowitz. One of those ones that comes off the tongue. I forget where he went to after
He went to Finlandia. He started actually with the Revolution and then moved over to the Apple Core. Can I pull up career stats here? I can.
There it is.
82 career games, 27 points, game winner in there. Again, another steady player, gets a chance to play in college this year. So let's throw him on the list.
All right.
1920 season, as Jeff was saying there. Down to 2D and a utility that maybe we'll go back to that goalie conversation that we were having. Drayton Todorov is returning. He put up 10 points last year.
Oh, big Pims guy. Whoa.
We don't count Pims though on the
no.
On fantasy. If we did, I think we'd probably lock him in every week. Somebody would, right?
Find the dudes.
Let's see here.
We can't provoke fighting. That would be too much fun for us to go into the rinks and just start walking everybody and be like, hey, you don't get in a fight today. I'm gonna buy you.
Oh my god.
As the famous Go Yamura once said. Drop the gloves today or I'm buying you. Oh, all right. I'm gonna go drop it.
Jeff, I can't
That's amazing.
make it up.
I'm still rattled by that. I'm
still rattled by that. And I confirmed it with the player who he said that to. I said, did he say what I think he said to you? He's like, he did. And I still don't know how to respond. Like, yeah.
Oh, I think I just found another name from the Wayback Machine on the Gilroy path. Did I just say Douglas Murray from the Sharks? He played for them in 98, 99. Long before the AHL was thought.
Look how many players have played junior hockey in the history of the Apple Core. Like for the franchise, like it's just crazy. They have that much of a history. Let's see here. What did I say we have left? We have 2D left.
Glenn Pupa. Why do I remember his name too? I think he was an early core. I think he was like beginning. He might be a point streak.
I love when you bring up the point streak website.
He might be a point streak guy.
I want to go with John O'Brien next. He was another player who spent time with the Apple Corps, and then advanced on to Western New England. John played for the 16-17 Apple Corps. Actually began the year with the Little Flyers and then moved over, kind of a change of scenery, put up 20 points in 42 games. So let's go John O'Brien next.
He was a Bobcat Royal at one point too, it says there.
Another one that you love to bring up.
Another favorite of mine from the I just remember it haunting me in showcases, and I'm like, oh, the New York Bobcats Royals. Although it is a play-by-play man's dream, because then you can switch up. You can say Bobcats Royals, New York. You can use the 3 different names that they had to kind of change it up. But anywho, so we got 1D left.
What's funny here, I just saw, remember we talked about Nick Nault, who played for the Apple Corps and then went to Seacoast. We touched on that 2 weeks ago, whatever Seacoast was. It was Nick Nault, Drew Eade.
I remember Drew Eade too, because then he jumped to Seacoast.
I'm going to search a name here. Hold on 1 second. There were a pair of brothers who played for the Apple Corps, and both moved on to the Milwaukee School of Engineering, I believe. So this is Hayden Dalton, who was the D. He played for the Apple Corps 17-19.
Oh, good final year for him, yeah.
For some reason, I think I'm blanking. Was it Tanner Dalton? Yes, I was correct. There's been so many players over the years that I surprise myself at times.
And you remember, you just see a name and you get amnesia. You're like, whoa. What?
Here's a question. Did we put one Dalton brother on the team and not the other?
Do we stack their stats next to each other and judge them accordingly? Or
so Tanner was the forward, Hayden was the defenseman. I think Hayden will definitely be our 6th D here. Hayden, as I mentioned, played on the 17-18 and 18-19 teams. I remember just him being steady. Now plays at the Milwaukee School of Engineering, which is coached by a former Apple Corps coach, and Graham Johnson.
Graham Johnson. Yep, I remember Graham. He played in some playoff games too, so notable that he was on a couple of core teams and made it to the playoffs.
I don't know if we have a spot though to
put the bro
in.
Put Tanner. Oh, Tan. Sorry, man.
I don't know. Did we just start a conversation at the dinner table, you think?
Hey, did you see Dio Jeff's post last week? Yeah, I made it. You did it.
And then that gets us to the utility. And you know what? I think I just totally agree with you, Jeff. For what he did last season, I think that we'd be remiss to not put Jackson Bernard on this list.
Look at those shots on goal. He faced over 1,000 shots, ladies and gentlemen. 1,000 pucks came his way.
What
was his smallest day of work? Is that 19 saves I see? He only played one period. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean,
look at this: 47, 55, 60, 72 shots on goal. What was that?
I think that's part of the Apple Corps style of play last year too. With some of the forwards that they had, it kind of just turned into a little bit of a running gun style, right? I mean, I know when they got matched up against the Rough Riders,
those are baseball scores. It was 7-6.
Those are some fun games to go to, but some of the games that he won here, this 3-win stretch in a row, right? Gave up 3 and 2, 43 saves, 36 saves, 31 saves.
Yep.
Here's a 46 save effort.
50 shots.
Here's a 65 save effort.
I remember that because that was against the 87s, and I think Maddie and Cooley were telling us about that.
I think I gave him goalie of the week here when he swept Maryland with 46 saves and then 41 saves. So, I mean, he put the team on his back at times this past year, heading off to Augsburg this fall. And
that's too bad he's an age out. That sucks.
Right? And that gives us the lineup. Our final original 6-team forward unit: Zach White, Michael Leva, Race Bennett, Michael Carducci, Kyle Warren, Danilo Barose, Matthew Boring, Colin Kalanin, Mike Cacciato, Connor Woolley. You said this name, not me, so I'll let you say it. Ricard Hewson? Okay.
I believe.
I didn't know that one, so I'm glad you said it. That was before I got in the league.
That was.
Jason Ruskowski, defensive core, Ryan Leath, Logan Scarlotta, Jimmy Metler, Nathan Walrowitz, John O'Brien, and Hayden Dalton. Goaltenders, Blake Wojtala, Tim Sestak, and Jackson Bernard. So that does it for our Apple Core lineup. Coming up next week, episode 87, featuring the final Team of the Week feature, the New Jersey 87s.
Knowing Neil like I have for all these years, that keeps you up at night in a good way.
Yes.
It keeps you very happy, smiling, that symmetry. That's a beautiful thing. Can't wait for that.
We'll talk to you then, Jeff.
See you then, Neil.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.